la la la. Hi guys, welcome to Maxim Grunin Art. Let's look at understanding of line and shadow, line and shade. This is a foundation of drawing. Let's look at what line is. There are three general major groups of lines. One would be a really light, and lightly touching the surface with a pencil is gonna make faint and light line. That kind of line appears to be further in distance because it's less visible by the eye. Then there is a bit heavier pressure line, that's mid-weight or medium dark, and then there is the bold line that's gonna appear the closest because it is so visible and the eye spots it. So that's the notion that's within the line, and that's how they are used. Let's start a linear drawing, and let's examine an efficient, effective way of using light, medium, and bold line. I am sketching. I went to the kitchen and I arranged objects like a coffee mate, a cup, and 3 apples. And then I took a picture of it, and I'm looking at that picture on my laptop, and I am just sketching it out. It is a good idea, and it's a strategy to draw lightly and use lightweight line to mark the objects. Here's an impression of a kind of oval or circle, that's apples. And then there is this a rectangular box building that's on an angle, that's the carton of coffee mate. Then there is a cup that's lightly, I would start like the main shape in which it's going to fit. Then I'm gonna draw its particular form, and the opening at the top is called an ellipse. So a circle is a symmetrical figure, and ellipse it's not an oval, it's a circle in perspective. And then I would go back to the foreground object, and I would keep building each object up a little more with mid-weight lines, and progressively I would build up the closest most object. The apple would be like the darkest outlined with bold line, and it will stick out to the front visually. And then the line on the wall of the box that's nearest to me, that's gonna get a darker line as well. So no shading at this point, just that's the function in the classical school of art that I studied in. That's like a rationally explained basic fundamental skill behind the use of line. Letters are for written or read language, and lines are for visual language, the language of drawing. And drawing is also a language underneath a painting, oftentimes, because it is not always that a painting starts with a splash. It often begins as just doodling and drawing around. And so this is a quick demo exercise of the use of line, linear drawing. And let's move to the what shade is. I am creating like 5 boxes, like a line divided by lines, and it's these are the boxes in which I'm gonna shade on maybe 45 degrees diagonal angle if I'm using my right hand. And you know, it all depends how you want to do it, but that's like the most basic way. And I would use light hatches, light lines, and then I would progressively build them up with the mid-tone or medium weight lines, and then finally the heavier pressing and scratching and hatching, crisscross a little bit on an angle, will produce darker shaded area. So shading is like this. It's at the most basic and the easiest to explain. It's just one way of shading and understanding of how a line also participates in becoming a shadow. And there are many other ways of shading. Of course, we can smudge, and we can, you know, dots and anything at all. But this is the most basic, and this is where I am just explaining the use, the classical, the most basic, the most rational use of a line going to shading, how that becomes the other. And so there it is. The explanation about what shading fundamentally is difference between lighter and darker tones and a type of gradient scale. Let's move into a demo, a quick sketch of drawing and shading. So the drawing is of 3 apples. It's also like same photo shoot. I just went to the kitchen, grabbed a few objects, put them on the counter, turned the light on, and photographed them, these objects, with my phone, and then, you know, grabbed the pictures onto a laptop so that it's a little bigger and it doesn't fall asleep. And so I'm drawing from these apples that I just photographed, and the apples are arranged in such way so that there is a foreground, a close-up, and then the next apple is a bit further behind the first one or beside it, and then there's another one even further behind the two. So this is giving me the room for experimenting and demonstrating how lighter lines will become mid-weight, medium dark, and how close-up object will gain progressively darker outline resolution. So at some point these objects become positioned kind of in a distance just by the use of the line. Now I'm also shading it with the notion of shading. So begin lightly and emphasize the objects with darker and more detailed resolution and darker shading, the object in the front, and progressively all of that information is receding. And in this sketch I am erasing a little bit to reduce the intensity of the apple having too much or too bold of an outline on one side. And then I also clean up a little bit the shape of the cast shadows, the shadows under the objects. And I erase a little bit at the top of the objects, the apples, to pronounce the light areas or the highlights. These are like quickly drawn and loosely drawn, and anyone can do this. And understanding these fundamental principles is kind of really instrumental. Like, I am not really a genius, when, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm talented, but it's all thanks to this understanding of the basics and how to use them. So if I practice these notions a lot, then I will be able to be successful at using line and shadow in any drawing project. And then that experience will also translate in skill upgrade when it comes to painting as well, because painting also deals with light and dark a lot of times, and using drawing skills in painting is very, very instrumental. So thanks for joining me today, and maybe grab a sketchbook and enjoy improving on your drawing skills. And I'm pretty stoked about sharing this with you. Yeah. Do 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 do. Bam do 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 do. Bow down do 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 do. Da 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 da. Woo 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 woo. Ooh, 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 ooh.